All right. Good evening. Today is Tuesday, May 28th, and this is the regular scheduled meeting of the Rhinebeck Central School District Board of Education. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 14th, 2019 regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any amendments, changes? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 21st, 2019 annual meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. We have an opportunity for public comment. Gentlemen, any public comment? No?
How was your weekend?
Yeah. I hope it was as sunny and beautiful as everyone. All right, so you guys are up. Principal's report.
Evening, everyone. So a lot of our end of the year events happening at Chancellor kind of starts with our, in my opinion, the spring concerts and Special Friends Day. We had our Special Friends Day last Thursday. We've had it going on the Thursdays the last couple of years. Works out beautifully. I wanted to just take a moment. Last year we started displaying, we get so many entries for the pin contest that we start putting together a lot of like the top half, because I mean there's so many, there's like probably a couple of hundred that come in. So we started displaying them outside with some of these flat boards that we have. So a lot of students get to see what they put in, show their grandparents. Probably, I've never taken numbers. I have to say both concerts were almost standing room only. There were a very small amount of people standing, which was amazing, filling up both rooms. And I want to take another moment, filling up both concerts, and I want to take a moment to thank Belle Pendergast once again. Her artwork was the winner of this year's pin. She did a beautiful job. Hands is like a heart. Possibly post the image on, I'll send it to Joe if you can post it on Twitter. We can pull the share
Great,
with
that's a
everyone.
great idea.
Our annual projects, we're doing it for the last couple of years as well, probably 4 or 5. Our Project ACES event was on the afternoon of May 1st. And if you remember, that's every child exercising simultaneously. We've been doing it every year since Kevin Yarnell was at Chancellor. A couple times we even had some, we didn't have it this time, but we've had some drone shots. But it's every student in the building around 2:45 meet outside, and we all, staff as well, all exercise at the same time. So we did that on May 1st. Friday, 4/26, I just wanted to, it was kind of a culminating activity, kind of some people involved in the environmental recycling project at Chancellor. So we had an opportunity to do a Rhinebeck Bike to School Day. I wanted to thank Chantel Collins and parent Liz Mazzarella for organizing it. There was a no waste breakfast shared at the mini park before school, and then at 8:30 a convoy to CLS with parent chaperones, of course. Very well attended. There have been a couple of things like that we've done in the past that may become an annual thing. It had to be rescheduled because of weather. It was a good test case, and it seemed to work, so we'll probably be doing that each year, I would think. Also, Engineers Week was also in May. I wanted to thank Lisa Heller and all the IBM engineers who've worked with our staff to keep this initiative moving each year. This year, they're working with grades 3 through 5 on a variety of hands-on activities. Stay tuned for an update for the specifics. Most of the grades in the building are able to participate this year. We did start at a touch late. Hopefully we'll get it going a little earlier. Grade 4 spring concert was May 13th. Grade 5 spring concert on May 16th. Also very well attended. Wanted to mention on May 10th we had Mr. Frischknecht and the BMS Peer Leadership group come work over with our 3rd grade students. A lot of partnership between those groups of students this year. They worked on an activity that asked them to design and create flotation devices for cans of applesauce, tying it to grade 3 unit on the Titanic. Not to save applesauce. Some little
It's pretty clever.
thing for cans just in case boats go down. Nothing like that. It was actually for flotation devices. So I wanted to just thank Mr. Frischknecht and his students for always working with students over at Chancellor. Grade 3 is in the process of organizing their first math circus. As you know, we contractually, the RTA members have a 2-hour after-school professional development that they can choose of their own. We set 2 other 2-hour PEs over the year, but they have a 3rd set that they can do on their own voluntarily, individually as a grade. So grade 3, I just wanted to mention, decided to utilize their time to have the students work on a unit where the students will invent math games and then invite grade 1 and 2 students to come and play. To attend, we'll be doing that at the end of June, so I'll have an update for you there. And then upcoming events, K2 Field Day is on June 14th, and the 3-5 Field Day is June 17th, rainy dates are the following days. Starting a little later this year in the day, it's going to go more towards the late end of the day instead of stopping around 1:45, 2 o'clock. It'll give them more time to warm up a little bit in the morning for the water activities, things like that. So we're starting a little later in the morning to see how that goes. That's what's happening.
Any questions for Mr. Gay? Fun springtime stuff?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Outside.
Good evening. So a couple of projects that students have been working on, multidisciplinary projects across grade levels. Our 6th grade students recently completed just last week their annual Top 100 project. Students select an influential world figure. They do an extensive research project in their social studies classes, and simultaneously in their writing classes they learn how to write a persuasive speech. Their task is to take what they've learned through their research and convince their classmates and teachers that they are, in fact, the most influential person in world history. Speeches are presented to individual classes. Finalists are selected. They present to the entire grade level in the auditorium. This year's finalists included Rosa Parks, JFK, Albert Einstein, Anne Frank, Bill Gates, Pablo Picasso, Marie Curie, with the overall winner presenting as human rights activist and youngest Nobel Prize laureate, Malala Yousafzai. So the individuals from world history they select are very extensive. 7th grade students are nearing completion of an extensive research project they've been doing on the Civil War and Reconstruction. They're also at the same time learning about iMovie and video editing software, and they're creating their own films depicting precursors to the Civil War. As we've done in the past, I think we're going to view these in classes in early June, and 7th grade parents are going to be invited to attend their child's classes. Members of the Peer Leadership Club have been very busy, as Mr. King mentioned. As he said, they worked with 3rd grade students at the beginning of this month, and in early June they've been working with 2nd grade students, serving as docents around the village of Rhinebeck, teaching about local history as part of the 2nd grade walking history tour. And with those two activities, the Peer Leadership Club has worked with every grade level K-5 this year. It's something they always strive for. Last week, thanks to the hard work of Henry Frischknecht and the 7th grade team, with a lot of grant support from the Rhinebeck Science Foundation, the Arts and Education Committee, the PTSO, the Community Foundation, and Olana Historic Site, 7th grade students took part in a 4-day series of multidisciplinary field trips. They visited Olana, where they explored the geometric and symmetric Islamic art forms and architecture throughout the home of Frederick Church, and then learned how to create their own tessellations and symmetric designs through completion of their own art pieces. They visited Locust Grove. This was the first year that they added this to the set of field trips. They toured the Samuel Lefby Morse house, and then took a nature hike and completed a creative writing activity. They visited Esopus Meadows. This is an activity we've been doing for quite some time. It's always a favorite over in Ulster County, where they took part in the Clearwater Tideline program, spending the day learning about the biodiversity of our streams, lakes, and rivers, conducting microinvertebrate studies, and actually getting into the Hudson and doing some seining themselves. This year, for the first time, I think we had 4 days of nice sunny weather, which is a first, particularly for what we used to call water days and now discovery days. In addition, they visited Spins Bowl Bowling Alley, where they took part in a number of creative activities involving physics while having a little fun bowling. They took part in a walking history tour of Rhinebeck. That's in its 7th year now. ENTA assists quite a bit with that. Students worked with actors, period artisans, and local historians to explore the town's history, with stops at the Beacon Arms, the DAR House, the Post Office, the Dutch Reformed Church, the Firehouse, and the graveyard, among others. Earlier month, the 7th grade band traveled to New York City to attend a production of Phantom of the Opera. And tomorrow, right out of our long weekend, the 8th grade band will be traveling down to New York City to attend a production of Stomp. We've had our spring band and chorus concert that took place on April 25th. That our band small ensemble concert will take place next Thursday, June 6th at 7 p.m. 8th grade students are wrapping up their study of Shakespeare and ELA again this year thanks to an arts and education grant, as well as some grant from the PTSO. Our 8th grade students were able to work with performers from the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Project. To complete this year's state assessment administration, 8th grade students sat for the science performance assessment last week and will be sitting for the written portion of that assessment on Monday, June 3rd. If you haven't had an opportunity, last couple of days for the 12th annual RCD art show over at Star Library. It's fantastic. Please stop in. I believe that it's being taken down on Friday. This Thursday, BMS will welcome Randy Kreider, who's going to present to our 7th grade students about the dangers of substance use and abuse. Ms. Kreider is a 2009 Kingston graduate who lost her brother to drug addiction in 2015, and she and her family have been doing presentations in local school districts ever since. A couple of upcoming events. June 14th, we will hold our 2nd annual 8th grade semi-formal. June 20th is our last day of classes. June 20th is also the 8th grade moving up ceremony and ice cream social. June 21st is our field day. Once again, I invite anyone who would like to participate to join us in the dunk tank.
That's
June
you, right, Joe?
24th.
You got your what's
I gave that up for Lent a couple of years ago, and it's just part of the habit now.
On that day, but hopefully
Yes.
the schedule is clear.
It's
this
all
year.
about good planning, John.
And on June 24th, we start the next cycle all over again with the 5th grade parent orientation.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Chemnitzer?
I do have a quick question, and maybe you mentioned, I just missed it. The seining activity, was that at Norrie Point, or was that
No,
closer
that was
to
at
here?
Sophus Meadows.
Sophus Meadows, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. As usual, I'd like to begin with some updates from the building level planning team. Our project for a community read is coming into greater focus. After some conversation with some granting organizations and some good advice, we plan to begin this pilot by focusing on our incoming 9th graders and provide a shared text for our incoming first year students, similar to what happens in colleges and universities. For those 9th graders, hopefully all of them who read this text, is entitled March. We'll develop some curricular connections in September, and our hope is that the day that our 9th graders spend at the Institute for Writing and Thinking at Bard, and typically that's late October, will be connected to this text. Building out from that, since this is a 3-volume series, our further thinking is that perhaps our incoming 10th graders would read volume 2, and then we would cycle through all of our grade levels, or at least 3 of them, to master this important graphic novel. In the English Language Arts Department, New York Times letters editor Sue Mermelstein will be visiting our journalism class on June 5th. Our senior artists have displayed their work in showcases throughout the building, so if you have a couple of minutes, please swing by and check them out. In our math department, Bobby B. was invited to present to the faculty at Greenberg Central School District on integrating the Texas Instruments Inspire Graphy Calculator in math classrooms. In our music department, right after break, the band traveled to Marist College to work with Marist band director Art Himmelberger in preparation for our band concert, our band and chorus concert in the spring. If you were able to attend that concert, you heard some of Mr. Himmelberger's work in the band's performance of the Block M March. It's the University of Michigan famous march, near and dear to my heart, that doesn't matter. What matters is the kids did a great job performing.
Did you have anything to do with the choice of,
I did
Performance
not.
pieces?
All of our band directors, Mrs. Natalie, our previous band directors, have been immune to my suggestions of a march. I mean, they see me coming, and I say, you know, how about the University of Michigan march football games, and they're not interested in performing. In the physical education department, as part of our safe driving week that's held before prom, it's this week, our PE department will once again have students compete in the Battle of the Belts. In PE classes, students are reminded of the importance of wearing seatbelts and practicing safe driving habits. In our guidance department, thanks to the support of Mr. Brunel and Mr. Krebs, we've lined up an organizational meeting for Naviance to determine who needs to know what, when, and our objective is to get that off the ground in September. So we have an aggressive timeline, and again, with the support of Mr. Brunel, Mr. Krebs, we're moving very quickly to instituting that. The high school faculty has committed to partnering with the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence over the next several years to implement a project or a program designed by Dr. Mark Brackett. It's known by its acronym RULER, and that acronym stands for Recognizing, Understanding, Labeling, and Expressing, and finally regulating emotions. And it's meant to address the clear data we received from our students that they needed some support in social and emotional security. So we have identified a small team of high school faculty who will be trained in this pedagogy and in this philosophy. The first year of the program involves sharing out those trainings and those skills with all the adults in the building, and then instituting those practices in years 2 and 3. In student council news, as I've reported earlier, I'm excited to share that Congressman Delgado has accepted the student council's invitation. He'll be visiting us tomorrow. The student council has solicited questions from their peers, which will be shared with the congressman in a panel moderated by student council representatives. In addition, in other student council news, I'm happy to report that the school-wide community building spirit event is on. And that's my name for it. It's not the student council's name. They're working on branding it. As I've reported, class and student council officers have worked with Teaching Empathy Institute Director David Levine to plan team building activities. The student council has presented a plan for this day. It's very detailed, took a lot of work, I think, to put in place. And this event will take place on June 7th with a rain date of June 10th. So I do want to recognize the hard work and planning from our students in making this a reality. In our Model UN on April 28th, they traveled to the Dalton School to compete in the Dalton School Model UN Conference. This featured 500 student delegates from 40 schools. One of our students, a Rhinebeck student who participated, received a verbal commendation for their performance. Rhinebeck Reality is out in its 9th issue in both paper and digital format. And some other activities, as I mentioned, this is prom week. The junior-senior prom will take place on June 1st at Diamond Mills. As we've done in the past with the support of our school resource officers, a number of events will take place this week to emphasize safe driving habits. I've already mentioned Battle of the Belts. On May 30th, a victim impact speaker named Brian Stromer will address all of our students, and has become a tradition on Friday, May 31st, as we've done for the past 5 years. A young man, a victim impact speaker named John Muller, will speak to our junior class. Looking ahead, on June 10th, we will hold our academic awards ceremony. The scholarship committee who selects, nominates students to receive awards and scholarships really begins meeting in February, and we recognize over 100 deserving juniors and seniors at this ceremony. We will once again continue our pilot of announcing all scholarship and award winners at this evening, and this enables us to focus on all graduates at our commencement. On June 12th, our athletic awards assembly will take place on June 13th. The Career Technical Institute Academic Awards Ceremony takes place, which will feature among its students our own Andrew Holsapple as the CTI salutatorian. And lastly, on June 29th, we look forward to commencement, 6 p.m., brand new shop.
Any questions for Dr. Davenport?
Could you go over the timeline again for the ruler, the emotional intelligence?
Yes, on a couple weeks ago, May 13th, Mr. Kutch and I went to an orientation for administrators involved in this project. And as was described to us, in the first year, adults in the building are taught or trained or familiarized with the pedagogical principles and philosophy of this approach to social emotional learning. The thinking, as has been explained to us, is that in order to teach and support students properly, the teachers in the building really need to understand how this pedagogy works. Then in year 2, those approaches are incorporated into curriculum across all of the content areas with further support and opportunity for support in year 3.
Just to follow up on that, you said a small group of teachers were going to be oriented. Small, how small? Like how many kids? How many
5.
teachers? 5.
So 4, because I'm going as well.
Ah,
So me and 4 teachers.
Okay, all right. And then is it the expectation that they'll be able to teach their colleagues in year 2 and 3?
It's turnkey
Yeah.
training.
Yeah.
In addition, we will have access to online training materials, which will be available to all faculty. The practice that the ESN recommended was to have a small group of teachers to function as turnkey trainers and resources.
Yeah, that makes good sense. Okay, great, that's exciting. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Moving on to committee reports. Jacqueline is not here.
For 2 of the 3.
For 2
She's
of
not
the
here,
three.
but
Kind of strange.
I wonder if she forgot.
Can't imagine.
No?
All right, then I will roll us through this. So we had lots of visitors at curriculum. Emily Davison started us off sort of talking about the new required guidance plans. And she sort of ran through the additions, the things that we're already doing here, just because that's what we do, and it sort of dovetails nicely with the new regs. And she and the People Personnel Service folks have been working all year, I guess, on updating these standards and looking at what we do and what we can do better. We have to have a certified school counselor available in all 3 buildings, and it seems like the regulation is fuzzy enough,
Flexible enough.
flexible enough, that we
Yes, correct.
that we can share the counselors we have currently to help buddy up down in the elementary school. So the 3 counselors up here are each going to take 2 grade levels at the elementary school, and they'll go down and work with kids, and they're drawing straws for who gets which grade levels, so that'll be kind of fun. And she wanted to point out again that Second Step in the Great Body Shop, which was launched this year, already has embedded in those programs a lot of what the guidance plan requires, so that's really great. She's also very excited about Naviance and how that's going to benefit kids and just having a better handle and understanding about each kid in the district. Then Steve Jensen ran through his draft technology integration plan, and he's reported out on this a couple of times this year, but the focus of this draft of the plan really was less on stuff and more on how teaching was going to be better integrated at all grade levels and evenly across each section of each grade level. So they're really going to try to identify where the areas are that need support, and they're going to sort of drill down, and rather than remaining generalists about the plan, they're really going to sort of go in and tackle the areas that need more support. Joe then shared with us a meeting he had with parent volunteer Eric Steinman and Megan Barbera, who are very interested in mindfulness work and helping kids de-stress and try to, sort of think more positively about their school experience. They have been working all year and talking to administrators and teachers, and they are going to continue to work together with personnel services and offer their services and thoughts wherever they can as parent volunteers to help support the work of the district K-12. So that's really exciting. And Marvin, next time on June 6th at our next meeting is going to have a list of summer curriculum work proposals to review with us up before our June 11th meeting, where we need to approve that summer work. And that will be our last meeting.
He and I are planning on meeting for a couple of hours. We haven't set the exact date, but sometime before the end of this week to go through the initial vetting of all the proposals, in which case there's some, it's rarely, if ever, throwing an idea out, not approving an idea, because actually the submittals have been pretty high quality, but sometimes the request is for more money than we have in our budget, cumulatively. So sometimes we have to go back and say to a team of 4 people who requested 80 hours during the summer to accomplish X, we'll go back to them, or Marvin will go back to them and say, we think you have a great idea here, but, can you do it in 60 hours? Or, we try to work it out so we can accomplish everything that's been proposed within our budget. So there's a bit of a process that will occur between our meeting this week and when we get to present to the curriculum committee and ultimately bring the recommendations to the board for approval, likely at the June 11th meeting. So just how the process works.
Steve?
Can I ask a question about that, Joe?
Yeah, sure.
At least a year ago, there was some kind of virtual collaboration among the teachers for some work. How has that worked, and is that being promoted?
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve. Thanks for bringing that up. I think we've done it full force this past year, and the idea was not only to encourage the use of technology for collaborating, which some have been doing and others a little less vigorously, we'll say. But we knew we were going to be in the middle of a capital project this year, so we wanted to really do a full court press on that last year to get people used to not sitting in a classroom in Chancellor or in this building and working together. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but when you're closing down a big chunk of the building, like over here, this building is going to be out of commission for the lion's share of the summer. Not so much in Chancellor. The following year, when they're taking all the windows out, that building will be pretty much out of commission. So last year was the tune-up for this year, and this year and when we put this out, we didn't know exactly what the capital project schedule was going to look like. We were still working through the bidding process, but anyway, everybody was told your project will be done digitally. So plan on it. I mean, if you guys want to get together in the library and sit down and work on it, I mean, that's fine, but don't plan on using any school facilities. So plan on doing it digitally. Worked very well last year. The administrators were very pleased with their ability to monitor what was going, however they set it up, they use some kind of Google platform, but the building principals could drop in and check on what was being done, so they could monitor what was going on digitally from afar, and the teachers, some of whom, go away for the summer, or we're hearing more and more, especially as we've kind of migrated from a veteran staff to a younger staff with small children, that being available to spend several weeks in the school building writing curriculum causes some hardships for them in terms of childcare issues, but if they can work on them digitally at home and they can share their ideas, it seems to work well for many of them. So this summer we'll be going full speed ahead on using that platform, and I think the thinking in the back of our minds is that once we go through 3 summers of this, people will be pretty much used to using that format. And we've talked about philosophically, is there a reason that we want to drag them all in? I think at one point, before we had the technology available, there was this idea that administratively we kind of had to keep an eye on the work. But in terms of giving them some professional responsibility, saying, hey, do it at your own pace, using these tools that we have now. And by the way, your building principal, Marvin, they're going to be dropping in on your digital work, and just to see how you're doing. So, and people seem to be pretty comfortable with that. So that's how we'll be doing it this year and next year, out of necessity. But and we're kind of geared up for it, having done it last year when it wasn't a necessity, and people were really pretty enthusiastic about not having to come in and still getting the work done. So yeah.
Yes. So the mindfulness.
Yes.
It may be premature, but how is it going to be incorporated?
That is premature, and that's what we're meeting about.
Okay.
Because we have, as you heard tonight from the principal's reports, we have a lot of social and emotional wellness things either that have already started or that are on the docket to be implemented next year and the year after. So we want to make sure that we do all these things in a way that's as coordinated as we can. I mean, they're all a little different in terms of their approach. That was, I think, what came out of our meeting with Megan Barbera and Eric Steinman was, all right, the next meeting, which we're trying to schedule for before the end of this school year, is to bring the PPS people whom they met with individually earlier in the year into a room, and let's have a conversation about, all right, how do we coordinate this so we're not all bumping into each other across the district doing this, and making sure that whatever it is we do, not every social emotional wellness program is a mindfulness program. I mean, they pointed out to me that it's its own niche, and we just want to make sure we're doing a variety of things because different kids need different interventions or skill sets or whatever, but we want to do them in a way that they complement one another and they don't clash, or, well, this program says do this, but this program says do that. Now we've got potentially kids who maybe are confused. So that's our next meeting, is to start the dialogue between them and our district-wide pupil personnel services folks as to what do we do, what have we done, what are we planning on doing, and how this all coordinates. So that's, we're working on that still.
Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that we have volunteers who are skilled in these various strategies, who are volunteering, at least up to this point, have volunteered their time to kind of walk us through, because it's new for some of us, probably not so much for our counselors and our social workers, but for others of us who, for whom that's not their everyday bread and butter, and I would include our building principals in that, we need to make sure we have a good handle on what's going to be happening in our buildings over the coming years.
All right.
Okay?
Okay, moving on to policy.
Okay, I can do those. So the policy committee discussed several policies at our meeting, starting with policy 5220, student publications. We discussed the proposed revisions that were submitted by representatives of the school newspaper as a result of our last meeting, where they joined us for the meeting. We discussed advertising and what kind of ads might be inappropriate for the school newspaper. Joe was checking with legal counsel to determine if paid ads are allowed regardless of content. And we discussed that the process of selling ads, if allowed, could add to the learning experience of running the newspaper. And we discussed the appropriateness of personal ads and classified ads. We talked about policy 9410, substitute placement on the salary schedule. We discussed adding language to the policy that would permit setting of salary rates at our annual reorganizational meeting, and Joe was discussing that with legal counsel. We talked about the possibility of having three classes of substitutes, those serving 30 days or less, those serving 30 days to 5 months or 1 semester, and those serving a semester or longer, according to PERB decisions. We talked about retroactive pay for teachers hired in one of the shorter term classes and then staying longer. And then we just had a brief discussion about policy 5152.1, admission of foreign students, and policy 5182, release time for religious instruction, due to some questions that were recently brought to the administration.
Questions for policy? I do, and I apologize, I didn't get a chance to read 5152. Was there concern about admitting foreign students?
A question was raised that sent me to our policy for guidance, which is, for most of you, you understand why the policy is there, because you don't want to be flying by the seat of your pants on it, on every issue. But there was a question raised about a foreign student, the possibility of a foreign student or students who are middle school age spending, depending on the day of the discussion, spending an entire semester or as little as 1 month basically enrolled in classes in our school district. And it raises all sorts of questions regarding residency and guardianship, issues that we deal with students who aren't foreign students all the time. Anyway, a review of our policy indicated that our policy allows students in grades 9 through 12 to be enrolled here under a J1 visa. Yeah, I know, it's like, did I get this one right? A J1 visa, which is the kind of visa one gets when you're studying in an American school through bona fide foreign exchange student program like American Field Services or Rotary International or whatever. Our policy also allows students to be admitted, registered to study here in grades 9 through 12 under an F1 visa, which per our policy allows them to be to study here for a year. Both of the F1 and J1 visas are for a year's worth of study for a student in grades 9 through 12. The second one, I was talking about the F1 visa, they're required to pay tuition to be here, as opposed to coming through AFS or Rotary International, one of those programs. There isn't any tuition charged, because typically there's an exchange where the student goes to the other country. I mean, it doesn't always work out that way, but that's the concept. Our policy specifically states that that students younger than grade 9 are not permitted to study here. So that was one aspect of our policy that I needed to make clear to the individual who asked the question.
And is there a reason that a younger student who is a foreign student, I mean, is it just because they might be traveling without a guardian or potentially?
I could speculate.
Okay.
I mean, this policy was in our policy book when we did the first huge overhaul of policy back in the early 2000s, shortly after I started here as superintendent. So I'm not sure what the history was before I arrived here, but I suppose one of the concerns might have been, and might still be, the age of the student. You know, are they really here for serious study? There's no credit earning earlier than 9th grade. You know, some students, foreign students who come here as high school students, earn credits or take credits back to their home school. You know, some of them come later. Some of them come here after they've graduated. They've already earned a high school diploma from their home country. But others come here and go back with credits in various subjects. Nobody's earning credits before 9th grade. There may have been, or still be, concerns about maturity, especially if they're not coming here for a full year. So they're, and how much are you really getting by sitting in a class for a month, academically speaking? Just again, questions that I think our policy raises. There may be other, I mean, I can't think of anything else, but we could probably develop a list of those things. But, and at some point, maybe the policy committee wants to revisit that policy and see if it's still valid, but right now that's the law of the land, so, yeah.
I was there. So when Laura asked the question, focused on the foreign part, is there a reason why we couldn't add to the title of that policy / non-resident students? Like, is there a law in the land where a student is coming from to visit their grandparent, to visit family, and they wanted to have them experience Rhinebeck for a month? Would there be any difference between that USA student and a foreign student?
Well, I think that begs the question, at what point do we start charging tuition? At what point do we admit students to our school who the people they're staying with don't have guardianship, aren't residents of the school district? I mean, we have had students, both foreign students and United States citizens, who have come here because, I'll just give you an example, and I don't have any particular student in mind, but they come here, especially with foreign students, their parent has a job at Bard College for 2 years. So they're here, they rent a house or buy a house in our school district. They're clearly residents. Their kids have the right to go to school here, whether they're foreign students or from Topeka, Kansas. Doesn't really matter. They have established residency here, so they're allowed to go to school here. I think that the situations we're talking about here, residency hasn't been established. They're not, the particular question,
Residency of the students.
well, yeah,
Okay, all right.
right.
All right.
And I think students.
I mean, you can't be a resident student without having your parent here. I mean, students don't generate residency.
But what I'm confused though, so what's the difference between the kid coming over from overseas
Mhm.
and, wanting to spend a month to, experience it through the residents of the Rhinebeck School District versus another kid from Topeka, Kansas coming in to visit their family living in
Yeah,
Rhinebeck?
practically speaking, there's no difference.
So that's why when Laura said, she zeroed in on that foreign part, I was thinking, is there any reason why we can't include, just say not, or, non-resident, or, you can't say that.
Yeah, because non-residents are really
with-
included under the
yeah, yeah,
non-resident.
yeah.
I think the difference is a student from the US is already guaranteed a public education where they live, where they're residents. A foreign student is kind of a, different entity, and the policy
It's
states.
the guardianship that makes the
Oh,
twist.
well,
No?
There,
Okay,
there could be a guardianship issue,
yeah.
because you're not a resident if you're not living with your guardian in the school district.
And there really isn't anything that says anyone can just kind of visit for a month and go to school. Because that policy, even for foreign students, really talks about a year or at a time. So if somebody wanted to come stay with their grandparents for a year, that would fall.
Well, then they'd have to
under-
give up residency
They
and,
would have to have custody, right?
Cut-
They'd have to
yeah,
pay
right,
different-
right.
So it really isn't anything that I think allows for kind of like a month visit to. Probably doesn't come up
Do
too
you hear
often.
me?
I do. I'm not, I think, in the world of, tuition students, my question is, why wouldn't this student, regardless of where they come from, pay tuition? I mean, if they're gonna come and audit classes here or get an education here of any type, why wouldn't you prorate the tuition to the time that they were here?
well,
No, I think
Non-resident
they're not
students?
asking to pay tuition, I don't think that's.
Well,
I
I'm
think
sure
they are
they're not, but
residents
that,
there.
why wouldn't that be part of,
Yeah, you're saying that they wanted to come here on a tuition basis. Do we even with tuition students, do we do that? Like, if they say, I want to come less than a year, I mean, we don't prorate it, right? You pay for the year, and if you leave, what happens? You just have paid and,
well, if they don't pay for the year, we allow them to pay by installments, so they,
would we stop if they only came for 3 months?
yeah,
We would. So
Yeah.
So then that's already in place, I guess.
well, that's
If we
just,
were gonna
that's
have
just a
tuition.
practice.
Right.
That's just a practice.
yeah, well, because, just based on non-resident tuition, if somebody lives in Topeka, Kansas or Hyde Park, they have to pay tuition to attend school here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're from Topeka, Hyde Park, or Zimbabwe, why wouldn't that kid fall under the,
I mean,
Non-resident.
is there something in the exchange programs, the foreign exchange programs, that prohibits the charging of tuition for those students?
Well, I
Or
think-
is it just the spirit of the?
I think under a J1 visa, it does, which is the one that applies to formal programs. An F1 visa, you could come from, it's happened a few times, not a lot. But most of you are probably familiar with the well, Mark certainly is, with the Rhinebeck Exchange. And, kids are spending their 2-week stint in Germany, and then German students are coming here, and frequently they'll stay with the same families. And we've had a few instances, not a lot, but a few, where they've developed a friendship with a parent who lives in the Rhinebeck School District, and they want their child to come here for a year during their high school years, and they would get an F1 visa, and according to our policy, they pay tuition for a year. They're living with somebody here. They're not, as I remember the policy, they're not required to give up guardianship or custody, but the understanding is they're coming here for a year. They have the correct visa that the United States government requires, and they're paying tuition, or somebody's paying tuition for them. And our policy very specifically states for students in grades 9 through 12.
Right.
There's no provision in our current policy, regardless of whether they come from Germany or Topeka, Kansas, to come here and pay tuition if they're an 8th grader, a 7th grader, or a 3rd grader.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there isn't, regardless of your age, there may be some immigration, you could get a J1 or an F1 if you're 12, right? If you're coming.
Well, I don't know if you can get one if you're 12.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
I'd
so
have
this
to-
is a question.
I would
yeah.
have to investigate that more thoroughly. I'm not sure if if the State Department would even issue because an F1 and a J1, as I understand it, is a study visa. It's to go abroad for the purpose of study, not we're on vacation and we'd like to see what being Rhinebeck High School or Bulkley Middle School is like. I mean, that's not coming for a year of study. That's,
Yeah, it's a little bit more of a drop-in for a shorter
Yeah,
period of time.
yeah.
But, if they're
and is
paying
that,
tuition,
and
it's not a problem.
I think an underlying question is that kind of drop-in for a month, something that we feel is educationally beneficial? I mean, it's one thing when you have a kid spend a whole year from another country, they make friends here. You're not making the same kinds of friendship and bonds. You're not playing on a athletic team, perhaps, if you're 11 years old and you're in Bulkley Middle School for a month. I mean, I'm not convinced that that's a reason to allow that to happen. But your board policy tells me that that's not something that we can approve, but the board policy committee can certainly discuss this. I mean, a lot of good questions. That's what your policy says currently.
Yeah, no, it makes, yeah.
But there are a lot of complicated questions, and there may be a couple of instances to answer some of them where we have to attempt to get an answer from the United States State Department to see whether they even give an 11-year-old an F1 visa.
Right.
Maybe they do.
Or
maybe
any
they
other
don't.
kind of
Or-
traveling
yeah,
visa or.
Yeah. So that's specifically, as I understand it, that's specifically a study visa. What you need to just come to the States for a vacation, I'm not really sure what you require. I know when Americans go to some countries overseas, I mean, when I go to Costa Rica to work there for a week and a half, I don't need a visa. I show my passport, I'm in.
But you go to Madagascar, you do.
Yep.
So it
Again,
depends on.
different countries,
it's
right, right.
country
Abs-
specific.
abs-
It's
absolutely,
country
absolutely.
specific. So,
So anyways, this country requires, at the very least, an F1 or a J1 if you're coming here to study. If you're coming here for example, as a college student to get your 4-year degree at Harvard or Princeton or wherever, it doesn't matter, you need a visa. They're not going to let you in for more than a certain amount of time without a study visa.
okay.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting question.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other policy questions? Okay.
Not that I am.
Facilities. Jacqueline.
I can do those.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
So we discussed a lot of topics at our meeting. So there's 2 categories of meetings that'll be ongoing during the capital project. There's going to be executive meetings, which will be meetings with Joe, Sheldon, and Tom, plus our construction managers and architects. And these meetings will be to provide a forum for the leadership to keep communication lines open. There'll also be contractor meetings every 2 weeks with all the contractors, the construction manager, Tom, Sheldon, and other school logistics staff as needed. These meetings will cover safety issues, submittals, requests for information, change orders, scheduling payments, and other miscellaneous items. Submittals would involve choices like tiles, paint, carpeting, colors, hardware, where contractors will be presenting something, some product that's in the proposal, and maybe there's a change, or maybe something that was spec'd wasn't available, so they had to choose something else. That's what would be covered in those meetings. Request for information would involve matters where a change would not involve a change in cost, and change orders would involve a difference in price. We had an update on bidding. So, as you know, we decided to break the roofing work up into 2 separate contracts for shingle roofing and foam roofing. The bids have come in, and we expect to award the foam bid tonight. The shingles bids came in higher than expected from 3 bidders. And the low bidder actually did not bid on one of the alternates, so we may have to reject those bids and go back out to bid on that. So we're also looking to rebid the site work. As you remember, the bids were rejected for that, and that will be broken into field work and paving. Ideally, the field work would start in late summer or early fall. We have work in progress already. Sheldon reported at our meeting last Thursday that about 80% of the lighting work is done already. The gym was expected to be done that night, and plumbing work is underway as well. We discussed what some of the projects would be during the summer. Right at that meeting, we discussed that at Chancellor, we will be mostly kitchen work done this summer, as well as skylights and access ladders. The bulk of the work in the project that will be done this summer is here at this building, where there'll be asbestos abatement, flooring work, ceiling work, windows in the district office, the 130 and 140 wings and bathrooms, and changes to the electric service from 3 services to 1 in preparation for the installation of the generator. And probably the roofing work, as long as all the bids get awarded. Moving of things in the building will present a challenge. Normally, our maintenance crew would empty things out and move things around, but it's going to be a very tight schedule, so we're going to be bringing in a vendor to do the work, especially for projects like moving the library, because the flooring work has to be done in here, and everything has to be emptied out of the room. So our building and grounds crew doesn't have enough manpower to make that all happen on a tight schedule, so we're going to have a contractor do that. Sheldon is already communicating with teachers and staff about where rooms will be affected in order to let them know what to expect and what to do to prepare. And then we discussed some work unrelated to the capital project. Sheldon's looking at buying some equipment to maintain the grounds that would save time and money in doing some work on the fields once the field work is finished. And we talked about issues with some of the fields this spring due to rain. He says the fields, Sheldon says the fields normally drain if it doesn't rain for a day or 2, but we've just had rain, very many days in a row, and there just hasn't been enough time for the fields to drain. Also, in efforts to get some of the water off the fields, I don't want to say damage, but work was done on the field to try to get the water off, and then it caused more problems by creating low spots in the field, so more water would collect the next time it rains. So our next meeting is June 20th.
The 19th.
Oh, the 19th, sorry, we moved it to that.
Thanks.
So I'm glad to see that part of the meetings will be talking about safety. I'm just wondering, the facility project, How are we gonna be communicating to parents about, what's going on, or what to expect, or what's available, or safety concerns they might have, just, I guess, communication around the
Well,
project?
it's interesting you mentioned that, and I thought it was in here someplace, but one of the things I asked Lou Rodriguez at the executive meeting, which was before the committee meeting, was to provide to, now that things are starting to get sorted out, and we know pretty much what we're doing when, I asked him to give me a list of the work that's going to be done this summer. I said, don't make it complicated, just keep it simple. Don't put anything on the list that we're not certain is going to be done. Let's not put stuff on the list and then we don't do it. Let's put it, because we can always update the list. And I want to put that on our website, perhaps send an email out, just letting parents know, this is what we're doing at BMS and Rhinebeck High School during the summer. I mean, one of the things is asbestos abatement and, new floor tiles. So people need to know, not that we're going to be letting people in to wander around, but they want to know. And that may be a potential safety concern for somebody, especially if we're having activities in, but we're pretty much closing the building down, so there aren't going to be kids wandering around, and they shouldn't be in here. So we'll be able to let our community, not just our parents, know this is what we're doing this summer.
So,
We anticipate this is done before the start of school. If they have questions, obviously, I'd rather have their questions up front than wait until after some work has been started and somebody comes up with some wild rumor on Rhinebeck moms and dads about, I heard this is happening. We want to nip that stuff in the bud and just put out the list of, this is what's going to be happening at this building this summer. A couple of things, minor things at Chancellor. And then when we get to next late spring, we'll do the same thing. This is what's going to be happening in Chancellor. All the windows are going to be replaced.
And I don't know, I don't know what the work will look like or whatever, but, community members, parents, they come and they practice driving in the parking lot, and little kids with bikes, there could be construction. I don't know if we need like a sign to say like construct, I don't know what it'll look like, but just keeping those things in mind, that our
Sure.
community uses a lot of the facilities, when we're not here for the summer to walk the track or whatever they do, and, just there's a lot of chaos, just so
Sure.
heads up, maybe like, this isn't the place to practice this summer.
Yeah, the limited access to the grounds.
Yeah, as it's needed. I mean,
Right,
there
right.
might not be anything happening in this parking lot for the
Right.
for the
Like I
bulk
said,
of the
I don't-
summer, so that's
I don't know
fine.
what's gonna be happening, but,
Yeah.
they're just.
I mean, the track will be fine until, whether it's this summer or next summer, we're recoding the track. Well, for a period of time, we're gonna have to post that the track's closed, it's under repair, refurbishment, whatever. We'll have to let people know. A lot of those things, we don't know now, like what weeks you can't be here, or in some cases, like with the inside of this building, it's gonna be like, don't come in here for
Yeah.
a couple of months, because we're under some serious construction,
Yeah,
so.
inside's probably easier,
well,
nobody uses that too much.
Yeah, I mean, we'll put that
Yeah,
information out there,
Grounds they
so.
do.
Yeah, it would be great to do sort of periodic updates
Oh, yeah.
as new stuff is
Sure.
about to start, give people a heads
Yeah,
up.
no, we absolutely will do that, sure.
And I think I asked this last time, but I don't remember the answer. On the fields and the site work, is there gonna be, I know there's gonna be some irrigation, is there gonna be drainage? I mean, if we know that this problem exists, and obviously it's been an unusual summer, but has there been any discussion about, I don't know, what kind of drainage you could put in for fields, French drains, whatever it is, so
Well,
that
there-
the water can move out of the clay?
There was no drainage in the project.
Okay.
I mean, we didn't have this problem before. I mean, if we'd had fields that weren't draining for a number of years, then we'd more than likely have built it into the scope of the project. We haven't, so we haven't. Is it something we could do if we get to the end of the project and it turns out we've got $100,000 left over that we didn't have to use, I mean, we certainly could have that conversation, because that's what Mark was referring to earlier, you know, the change orders and whatnot. But right now, there's nothing in the project for drainage on that particular field. So it would really all depend on whether we have money left over and we want to spend leftover money on that. I'm not saying we do or don't, but
You've already torn up the fields and reseeded them, you're probably not going to want to do that again.
yeah, well, I don't believe that field's being torn up and reseeded. I don't believe so. So I don't think we're going to be in a position of potentially undoing work we already did.
Okay. All right. The summer schedule.
Okay, so I solicited information from all of you, as well as from our 2 new board members, obviously not from those of you who are not going to be serving on the board next year. And I'm making a suggestion due to people's availability that instead of having the org meeting on July 9th, that we have it on July 2nd. A number of you are not going to be here on the 9th. And as you know, we try to schedule these summer board meetings so that the majority of board members can be here. There are also some conflicts with the second July meeting that I had on the last schedule, and I should have that at the ready, but I don't. We were looking at July 9th and 23rd. A number of you are not available on the 23rd, so I'm recommending that we push the July 9th meeting earlier to July 2nd, when I think everybody is available, and push the July 23rd meeting to July 30th, when most everybody, if not everybody, is available. And then at this point, I've left August 13th and August 27th where they are, only because for each of those dates, a number of you are not available. It seems like August was the more difficult month to get a meeting date scheduled when everybody could be there. I think, I'd have to go back and double check, but I'm pretty sure July 2nd and July 30th, everybody is available. Not so August 13th and August 27th, and I even toyed with going to one meeting in August and making it August 20th, but there are people who aren't available August 20th, so it's just going to be one or two people a meeting in August are just not going to be able to be there. There are not enough Tuesdays or weeks in August for me to find a meeting that all 7 board members can be there. So this is where I am right now. So I just wanted to put it out there and let you all know where I'm at. The only question in my mind would be whether we, knowing the imperfection of August 13th and August 27th, whether we just want to go with one board meeting in August, or we want to have 2. I've left it scheduled that way. Even if we want to use one of those meetings as a board goals meeting, 1 or 2 people are going to be missing, which kind of, in my opinion, kind of defeats the purpose of having a goals meeting. All 7 board members, in my humble opinion, ought to be there to determine the goals. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, we don't have to make a decision tonight. I'm just giving you the latest update based on the feedback that I've gotten from those of you who are serving, as well as Matt Van Warmer and Jackie Rakulia.
Mark?
What is the timing on setting the tax rates?
That's what I was looking at.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, typically it'd be at the 13th. What I wanted to find out is see if I can push it to the 20th. So I do want to give a call out to the Dutchess County taxes just to see exactly what the turnaround would be. I'm thinking the 20th would be okay.
Well, I guess question is, would the
Nobody's
13th be
here.
okay?
Oh, 13th would definitely be okay.
Well-
I just,
So that means.
if we couldn't meet on the 13th, I think the 20th
Oh, is the
would
20th
still
too
be-
late is your
I don't
question?
think the 20th is too late.
Okay.
I think we're right at the range, but
All right.
I think we're gonna be okay with the 20th, but I'll double check. on
Yeah,
that.
let us know before the meeting on the 11th, so we can, yeah, good point, Mark. I forgot about the timing for the tax bills. It's either too early or too late,
The
so.
13th won't be too early. I just wanna make sure the 20th isn't too late.
The 27th usually is if we're.
Oh,
That's too
27th
late.
would too late.
No, for that, but for, if we were doing any
Hiring.
hiring, that usually
Yeah,
comes into
and,
play.
and we, you know, we may find, we've done, it's happened a few times, we may find ourselves, if we have to have a late hire, of trying to get a quorum. I mean, there are at least 4 people available on those dates in August. It's just, I'm shooting for 7, and I can't get a date when 7 people on the board are available, but.
I mean, it doesn't make sense to change one to the, like you said, to the goals if everyone can't be here.
No,
So
that,
have
we
find
may have to
another
push
date
that into
for
early
that.
September or.
Well, it doesn't
Well,
have
I
to be,
wonder if-
the goals doesn't have to be a Tuesday either. You guys can do that anytime.
That's true, but
Maybe we could find one. in
I'm
July.
thinking, you know, people are like, I'm out for this week, I'm out for 2 weeks.
Right.
So they're not gonna, you know, it's not like people are giving me single Tuesdays that they're not available. They're not
They're
available
vacation,
for a
yeah.
week or two, sure. So it may be difficult to find a random non-Tuesday to get everybody there, is all I'm saying. I mean, if we could, that'd be fine.
Maybe you could just take a shot at finding a July date that's not an earlier date. I just think September to start on the goal is late,
It is
really
late.
late.
Yeah, well.
You know, because I mean, it's
yeah,
just
I know.
everybody's behind the.
I know.
You know, so I'd rather look at that maybe in July if there's another date, you
I'll-
know. If people are here
I'll
on the
take a look.
2nd, then maybe that week, somewhere in that week, even if that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I know it's the 4th, so that maybe not, but, you know, maybe the 1st, people are already here.
I'll take, no, that's
Take a
good,
shot
that's a
at it.
good idea. I have everybody's preferences written down in another
Yeah.
paper that I didn't bring with me tonight, but
'Cause
yeah, I'll see if that's a
Sometimes it takes
possibility.
us a couple rounds to
Yeah.
get it, so.
Yeah, and I would prefer to do it during the summer, but we have done it in September and October, as late as
I know,
October
that-
some
I just-
years. It's not ideal.
It's just hard
Yeah,
for the
it's tough,
principal anywhere
yeah,
else. to-
Yeah,
to
no,
pick
I
up on
agree.
anything now,
I
so.
agree. So I'll take a look at that, yeah. July, right now, with the dates people have given me, we'd have a better shot at July
Yeah.
than we do in August. August is just, it's already
Yeah.
just
I'm just
problematic.
thinking maybe the 1st, because everyone's here the 2nd, and they're here for graduation. They would have just that little window there.
Well, okay, I'll let you be the one to suggest
Well,
that.
except if it's the first, they're not, Jackie won't be sworn in yet. July 1st.
Well, that's true.
Well, but we could still,
I
we
have
can
to, I have to
still-
do that, remind me,
But we could ask her to sit in.
to make the statement for the,
We don't have
okay.
to exclude her just because she's not sworn in. She could. Right. I just-
All right, well,
I'm just saying, it looks like a window that people might be here before the 4th
Yeah.
and before everybody goes away.
I'll work,
I could
I'll
be
work,
wrong.
I'll work on that.
Could be wrong.
I work on that.
All
Could be our
right.
earliest goal yet. Be something.
Yeah,
Set
could
by
be.
August.
Yeah, imagine that.
Genius.
Okay, so while we're discussing this, maybe it's a good time for me to mention, in the interest of having the minutes reflect this, that Matt Van Warmer came in and took the oath of office and signed the book on, was the date? On Thursday, May 23rd. So he has been sworn in pursuant to his, because we were thinking that he would be here. In fact, I think he's planning on being here on the 2 June meetings.
Yes.
So he is, and remember, he was the one who filled the position vacated by Lisa, who filled the position vacated by Deirdre. So he is official right now.
Great.
So, is that okay, Whitney? All right, good.
And he sends his apologies for having missed tonight. He is looking forward to being here.
Yeah.
Feel it.
Okay.
All right. Good news. Diane?
Couple good news. First, good news, the budget passed.
Yay!
That's good news. Thank you to our community. And our track team, I won't name names so don't forget someone, but they're killing it. There are lots of
Yeah.
school records and championships.
Yeah.
They're having a great season.
They're out here practicing this morning.
And baseball's
going.
moving on to sectional play,
Yep.
which was today, but
It got
of course
rained
it
out,
got rained
yeah.
out, which is typical of the spring season, but, so,
Yeah.
A nice way to end the year.
yep.
Other good news?
I know Ed mentioned it earlier, but I'm really pretty excited that Congressman Delgado will be speaking to our students, and just want to give a shout out to our student council who had the thought to invite him.
Yeah, that's great. Is that going to be videotaped?
I don't know, that's a great question.
Might be kind of a cool thing.
Yeah? I'll make sure I
Have on
know.
our-
Sports stuff, sports, technology.
Well,
The
we don't have that yet,
NFHS.
but Steve has an iPad,
And he's
so-
not going to be standing out in the field.
No, no, he is not. He is not. He's going to be in the auditorium. Okay?
All right. Excellent. Old business.
think
I
am.
have a couple of old
Okay.
business things. Thank you guys for getting me your committee preferences. I did want to check in with you about sort of the extras that we have. There is CDEP, and I know Steve went to the spring CDEP meeting, but that is available for anybody who's interested. Dutchess County School Boards, Mark,
Yes.
you're going to be doing that. District Safety Committee,
So I agreed to that this year,
Last
but we
time.
haven't met yet. Is that coming up, or is that, we just haven't?
Yeah, we'll be setting a meeting because we need to because of the capital project. We did have a meeting at the end of the year last year. I'm not sure
Yeah, I
whether that was
wasn't- I don't think
before
I-
you were
before I was on.
appointed. So yes, there will be.
So far it's been great, so.
Okay.
so you're happy to stick with
All
that?
right.
Excellent.
You like those committees. I don't blame you.
Excellent. We also have Rhinebeck Collaboration.
I'll do that.
You want to do
Yeah.
that still, Mark? Thank you. And Parks.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Mark?
That's awesome. Okay. I think that is that. So it's really just the question about CDEP. So we'll see who jumps at that opportunity.
Did long-range planning get?
Long-range planning is
Still freeze
not, no, we don't have 3 yet, but we'll see. Matt was very flexible. He said he'd fill in wherever he was needed, so I want to take a look at those things and see. And I haven't heard from Jacqueline yet,
Okay.
so I need to see where she's falling in line. So, thank you. I also want to talk to you guys about our timing on Joe's evaluation. The board lost a weekend, so I don't know how you guys feel about being able to get your evaluations written by June 6th, which was the day we were planning on powwowing. I asked Lisa, she said she could try to get it done by the 6th. If we move it a week, that would be better for her. I don't know how you guys feel on the timing. It would mean that our discussions with you would be pushed later into the month. So.
I had it in my calendar for this.
You do? Okay. All right. And you think a week is going to be enough time to get your evaluation written? Okay. How does everybody else feel about that?
Should be fine.
Yeah? Steve, Dan? Okay.
Did you guys get an email from Super Val?
Yes.
That everything's locked and loaded from, yeah, okay. I just want to make sure it was auto-sending the email to all of you to let you
Though I
know.
will say, mine keeps on kicking back to last year's.
Yeah, there's that drop-down
Yeah,
menu.
I have to use it
Every time.
You have to go to 2018-19 every time. I have to too. I wind
That's sort
up,
of a weird glitch.
It is, isn't it?
and I talked to them I don't want to belabor this point, but I had a heart attack last year when I went in and pulled it up and I was going to put stuff in, it was like, what the heck is going on here? Then I realized it always defaults to the first one instead of the most recent one. And I did bring to their attention, hey guys, just change that little part of your thing and make it default to the new one instead of the old ones, but it still defaults to the first one. So
Yeah.
can't do much about it.
Not enough people complained, apparently.
Well, I guess not. I guess not.
All right. Okay, then we are still on for June 6th at between 6:30 and 7, depending on when curriculum closes out.
And that's for you guys or
That's
with
for
me?
us guys.
For you
No,
guys,
that's
okay.
for us guys. All
Where,
right.
where do you want to meet for that?
I think we're meeting at Steve's house.
Oh, okay, you're meeting off campus.
We
then.
are meeting
O-
off
okay,
campus.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yes.
All right. Excellent. All right, that's all I've
All
got
right.
for old business. Anyone else? Okay, other? Sorry, public comment for nobody.
Nobody.
There's no public comment.
I have a question on, I guess I don't know if it's under other. Have we ever had or thought about having, like, once the budget passes, like a sign or something that to thank the community? I've seen those in other districts and I was out somewhere and I just don't know
Other
if
than
we've
putting-
ever had anything, anywhere.
Other than
where
putting
we-
something on our website, which I do that night.
Yeah,
uh,
I just thought somewhere and I was like, that's kind of nice. It just, sign, thank you for
Mhm.
supporting the budget.
Did you post anything on Facebook and Twitter?
Yeah,
Yeah, I just didn't see.
yeah.
It's like the night of.
Yeah, I did it that night before I went home
Yeah.
at like 9:45 or whatever. Hey, if the board wants to spend the cash on, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I just say,
you know, 'cause
if you want us to
everyone's
do
not
that,
aware
we
that's in
can,
the community, I just thinking that.
we've always put the banner up telling people when the vote's gonna be,
Right.
but we just,
Did the back
first
side
time it's
down
come
and
up.
flip it over.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
so,
I don't know. It was just a thought, just thinking the community that comes out that's not.
it says budget vote next week, then budget vote today.
Right.
So, let me know if,
I don't know if communications get done, I don't know.
Yeah, well-
It was just a thought, I saw it, I
Yeah,
don't know
well,
what to say, but.
so it's a fair thought.
All right. Excellent. Okay, we'll move on to our action items unless you have any other.
I do not.
Okay.
We're ready to move.
All right, does anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda? I would like to point out in item 6.1.4, this donation from the Rhinebeck Varsity Swim Team Booster Club is not a PTSO
Yep.
donation, so strike that from your language. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the consent agenda with the amendment?
So moved.
Edit.
Second.
All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. We would very much like to thank the Varsity Swim Team Booster Club for supporting our swim teams. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to grant tenure to Anthony Chinese in the tenure area of teaching assistant effective September 1st, 2019, and may be revoked by the Board of Education up until that time.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to grant tenure to Marissa Foti in the tenure area of English as a second language, effective September 1st, 2019, and may be revoked by the Board of Education up until that time.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to grant tenure to Charles Johnson in the tenure area of Industrial Arts General, effective September 12th, 2019, and may be revoked by the Board of Education up until that time.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to grant tenure to Kimberly Sneed in the tenure area of teaching assistant, effective September 1st, 2019, and may be revoked by the Board of Education up until that time.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the following resolution to authorize agreement for health welfare services 2018-19 school year? Whereas by Section 912 of the Education Law, a school district, which is the district of residence for a particular student, may enter into agreement with another school district for the purpose of providing health and welfare services for said students who attend a non-public school, and whereas during the 2018-19 school year, Rhinebeck Central School District is eligible to provide said health and welfare services to pupils who attend a non-public school situated within the boundary of Rhinebeck Central School District, namely Primrose Hill School, Rhinebeck, New York, and whereas said health and welfare services include those provided under Section 912 of Education Law as appropriate, and Whereas it has been calculated that the cost of such services would be $997.77 per pupil based upon the calculations set forth in Commissioners' decisions and the NICED guidance document. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Rhinebeck Central School District does hereby authorize a health and welfare service agreement with each district of residency. Further resolved that the Board President, Superintendent of Schools, and Clerk of the Board are duly authorized to sign and execute such agreement on behalf of the Rhinebeck Central School District.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to approve the appointment of Tiffany Calabrese as a teacher aide temporary at the hourly substitute rate effective May 13th, 2019 through June 26th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to award capital project bid contract number 3B-RC coated foam roofing contract work to the following vendor: Puff Inc. for $270,000, adding alternate number 21, roof area 10 for $34,800, add alternate number 22, roof area 8, adding $28,500, add alternate number 23, roof area 1, adding $17,000 for a total of $350,300.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to approve the 4-year probationary appointment of Ariel Rebraca to the position of special education teacher assigned to the Rhinebeck High School effective September 3rd, 2019 in the tenure area of special education general at a salary of step 1 MA, $61,425 in accordance with the RTA salary schedule for 2019-20.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous except for...
Oh, sorry.
That's unanimous. That motion passes. May I have a motion to move into executive session for purposes of discussion of employment of particular persons?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. We're moving into executive session.